is going to make the Zambian people worse off from the status where they are right now. Then the other thing, this is just going to increase if we proceed with this proposal, if we put it into practice beginning 1st January 2024, it is going to result in a situation where people will stop putting money in mobile money accounts because they'll be fearing to be charged. Me personally, I will stop putting money in my mobile money account for fear of being charged. I would rather pay someone cash than being charged on my own money, which I've just decided to store. There are also people now who are getting salaries through mobile money accounts, especially people who get money that is relatively lower than the average. They are getting salaries through mobile money accounts. So now a person who has just received a salary of maybe 1,800 kwacha, every time he's making a transfer to make a payment for something or to pay rent, he's charged. So it's unfair. It's very, very unfair, and I still continue making an appeal to Dr. Stombeko Msokotwane that he should reconsider this position and maybe find other ways of raising money. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Mokosa, for highlighting areas where the current government is overtaxing a poor citizen. I will now invite Honorable Gordon Mwila to also add his voice.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Moderator, Honorable Medesiana. And I ride on the protocols observed. I recognize Honorable Kafwaya, Member of Parliament for Lunte, and good morning to the members of the press gathered here this morning, and good morning to the Zambians that are tuned in at various platforms to listen to this address. I will add my voice on the ongoing discussion. As you know, the budget for 2024 was presented, and we as members of Parliament have had an opportunity and still have an opportunity inside the House and outside the House to make the Zambians aware about the salient features of this budget. As you know, the platform in Parliament may not be adequate because we have limited time, and so I do appreciate this time that we have to interact with you members of the press, and through you to interact with the Zambians, to inform them about this budget that we are currently debating in the House to take effect 1st January 2024. First of all, like I have said, I would like to repeat that this budget which the Honorable Minister presented, this budget is a very bad budget. Why? It is not pro-poor. As you know, us in the PF are a pro-poor movement. And being a pro-poor movement, we look at every government policy or pronouncement with the poor woman, the poor man, poor boy, poor girl in our lenses. And because this budget does not answer to the hunger that the majority of the Zambians are facing, there are no provisions in this budget that will address effectively the hunger situation, the high cost of living, that will address the lack of jobs in this budget. That's why I'm calling it, it's a bad budget. It is not meant for the poor Zambians. This budget was meant to enrich the rich and make sure that the have-nots continue to languish in poverty, continue to languish in destitution. I have also said that this UPND, now in government, actually had very little ideas how they are going to take this country forward, because they offloaded all the ideas that they had to govern this country in their first ever budget, the 2022 budget. That is all they had. So the rest of the years, we should just expect nothing but repetitions and stagnation. Because today, those of you who find time to tune into parliament proceedings, whenever a UPND member stands to talk, not even in parliament, even outside of the house, members of the government, members of the party, the UPND, whenever they are talking about the achievements of the party in government, they will not go beyond the three things. One, they will talk about CDF. Two, they will talk about free education. Three, they will talk about the recruitments of the teachers and the nurses. They don't go beyond this. From 2022 last year, even today, whenever they are debating, whenever they are talking about what this government has done, they will tell you, we have increased the CDF, we have recruited teachers and nurses, and we have provided or delivered free education. The fourth one, they will tell you, we have ended cadreism. Beyond these four, but the country is bigger than this rhetoric. That's what I'm saying. They offloaded all the ideas in the 2022 budget, and the budget that we're implementing now had nothing but stagnation. Even this budget for 2024 is a very stagnant budget, not meant to grow the economy, not meant to grow this country, but just to keep us where we are. Poverty continues, unemployment continues. My address this morning, I want to focus on manufacturing and what this 2024 proposed budget has in terms of manufacturing. As you may know, that our 8th National Development Plan has highlighted 4 sectors of growth to achieve our Vision 2030. We have 4 sectors that must perform outstandingly well for this country to achieve Vision 2030. End hunger, create jobs, grow the economy, manufacturing. And these sectors, one of them is tourism, the other one is agriculture, the other one is mining, and then manufacturing. These 4 are the key pillars on which our 8th National Development Plan, our Vision 2030, is centered. But when you look at this budget, you will cry. You will struggle to see what deliberate measures has the government provided in terms of policy direction to grow tourism, to grow agriculture, to grow manufacturing, and to grow mining. Very little. Basically, we have left these 4 sectors at the mercy of whoever the players are. How can we achieve our Vision 2030 when these sectors have not received adequate attention in the budget? Let me give you a quote when talking about agriculture. This is what the Minister of Finance had to say in this budget. In paragraph 79 of his budget address, the Minister said this: Madam Speaker, it is government's desire that more multi-facility economic zones, emphasis, more multi-facility economic zones are established for faster industrialization. Since government does not have the money to finance the emphasis, this is the minister now saying, since government does not have the money to finance emphasis, we shall merely provide fiscal incentives so that the private sector can develop them. This is where I have a problem. The minister is confessing to you, the Zambians, that the government does not have the money to finance emphasis, so they have left it to the private sector. Now, one sad thing is that Honorable Msokotwane, this is the second time he's sitting in that office. He was there, I think, from 2008 to 2011. And then emphases were there. And he is back. Instead of him coming up with solutions how we are going to address manufacturing and industrialization, he still has no ideas. And remember, I've said manufacturing is one of the key sectors that are going to drive the growth of this economy. But he is lamenting that the government does not have the money. So if the government does not have the money, who will develop these multi-facet economic zones? For expansion of understanding, multi-facility economic zones, these are special areas designated by the government where manufacturing of goods is made specifically and deliberately cheaper, such that anyone who comes up with a factory or a company to manufacture whatever sort of goods, they are encouraged to go and set up that factory in a selected area where they receive tax incentives, basically receive preferential treatment. The reason? Because the goods that are supposed to be produced in those selected multi-facility economic zones are relatively cheaper. Cheaper to the Zambian market, also cheaper for export. Now, who is supposed to develop this? The government, first of all, must create this infrastructure. The government must find a piece of land to say, here is where we are going to set up the economic zone. And we have put the roads there. We are going to supply power, uninterrupted power, no load shedding. We are going to provide water. We are going to put sewerage. We are going basically to put up the hard infrastructure so that whoever wants to set up a factory there can just go with their investment, construct their factory, start working. Now, the government, through the minister, and in this budget, they're saying they don't have the money. How are we going to grow the manufacturing sector? This is why I'm saying that this government has no ideas how they are going to grow this economy. And this budget has nothing but rhetoric of CDF, free education, Kadarism ended, recruitment of health workers and teachers. That is all. Beyond this, it's a lamentation. Now, I'm not just here to criticize, of course, because that is part of my job. I also have solutions where the minister can get the money to fund the development of multi-facility economic zones. And by the way, we now have 4 economic zones in this country. We have the one in the Lusaka South multi-facility economic zone. We have the other one near the airport, the Lusaka East multi-facility economic zone. We have one in Chambishi, and we have one which was recently launched in Chivombo. We need more than 4. The hunger for growing the manufacturing base in this country cannot be any bigger than now. The hunger for creation of jobs can never be any bigger than now. Definitely having 4, and we are talking about Vision 2030, we are talking about achieving the 8th National Development Plan. That is a meager number. Here is my suggestion to the minister, because he's saying he doesn't have the money to grow or to develop these multi-facility economic zones. Go back to the incentives that have been given to the mining sector. My colleague, Honorable Mukosa, mentioned about the revenue losses that we are suffering as Zambians. Why? Because from last year's budget 2022, this government gave incentives to the mining sector. Specifically, one of them, I'll tell you, the mineral royalty, which they say once you pay, you can come and deduct it from where? From the profits that the mines make, and which profits we rarely hear about. That measure alone is costing this country, the treasury of this country, 3.2 billion kwacha from last year, even this year. And that was just an estimation. The actual cost is far more than that 3.2. At the time the pronouncements were being made, that was the estimated loss. Further, in addition to that 3.2 billion that we have given up through the changes in the taxing regime for mineral royalty, we also have another 2.8 billion kwacha in this year. That makes it 6 billion at a minimum that we are losing as a result of the incentives we have given to the mines. Now, why should the minister be crying that we don't have the money, and yet he is seeing the money go down the drain by giving these incentives, unjustified incentives to the mines? Why am I calling them unjustified? We have already seen how the mining industry, the mining sector, copper specifically, has dropped. At the time of change of government in 2021, copper production in this country was at 880,000 metric tons. Today, this year, 2 years down the line, we are about 650. We have lost 200,000 metric tons of production. This has happened at the back of the incentives that we have given. So what is the benefit? Why should we continue to keep these incentives when we are not getting the benefit? So my suggestion to the minister, go back, relook at these incentives, collect the maximum that you can collect from the mining sector and put it in the manufacturing to develop the multi-facility economic zones. And go beyond copper. Let's deal with gold. We have the PF government had set up the Zambia Gold Company. That company was set up specifically to deal with the marketing of gold. That is the company under ZCCMIH. But today, it's like anyone, even the government doesn't even know where the gold will pop up from. The reason for that company was wherever it shows that there is gold, quickly move in, secure it, and bring it in the hands of the government. But today we're just hearing people are crowding in Impika, people are digging gold, and the government is saying we are waiting first, we have to see that indeed there's gold there. But people are digging individually. Why should we even wait a day when the evidence is abundant? And we should not even just be waiting for individuals to discover and start rushing, gold rush as it is. We also must be proactive and find where are these minerals. Bring them in the armpit of the government control. Raise money, put it in the development of the multi-facility economic zones. Otherwise, as we are moving aimlessly without direction. And it will be very difficult even for this budget to be funded, even as it is. Because the revenue base is a problem. How are we going to raise this 178 billion when we have let the mining sector collapse? Already, Mopani is a problem. KCM, it was just one day of that announcement of saying we have Vedanta. Today, there are more problems after that announcement at KCM than they were 3 before. We know contractors who are pulling out, miners who are now being laid off. How are we going to manage to finance this budget with all these woes and problems? Manufacturing, we are letting it down. Mining, we are letting it down. Where are we going to raise the taxes? The only thing now is to fall back on you, the poor Zambians. My colleague was talking about this tax they are now going to get from mobile money. Because you and I have very difficult to negotiate incentives for ourselves. We are at their mercy. So they are going to follow, even does lead to mobile money transactions, tax. Even those who are in employment continue to pay high taxes. Never mind those, the increment in the tax-free threshold, 300 kwacha, what is that? Reducing the maximum rate from 37.5 to 0.5%. What is that? That's why I'm saying this budget is not pro-poor. And I did suggest when I was debating, there's still time. The minister can go back, withdraw this budget, let the budget be prepared by the Zambians for the Zambians. This does not have the heart of the Zambians, this budget. We need a budget that is prepared by the Zambians and for the Zambians. Otherwise, as we are, manufacturing is going to die. The government is not securing money to grow it, and then who is going to grow it? Private sector are waiting for the government to do its part. Then they will come in. So that is what I wanted to discuss with you, the Zambians. Of course, the budget is a bigger piece. Bit by bit, we'll be bringing out these shortcomings in the budget so that you, the Zambians, have an opportunity to compare who cared for you. Is it the PF or this government? You, the poor Zambians, have an opportunity to compare who cared for you. Is it this government or the PF government? I thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable. We now invite Honorable Kafwaya to add his voice. I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritties of what he has discussed due to limited time.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Honorable Melesiana. Allow me to thank my honorable colleague, Honorable Muida, and also Honorable Kalalwe who has stepped out to other important areas. Let me also recognize our colleagues or friends from the Fourth Estate, the media, as I do the Zambian people who now have a chance to listen to us as we have these regular conversations around issues that affect us as a nation. I only have 2 points to add to what my colleagues have already established. I want to talk about one thing, the fact that the 2024 national budget is understated. The minister deliberately understated the budget by 66 billion kwacha. So as he reads out the 177 billion, that figure is understated by the amount of borrowing which he has grossly understated in this budget, and I'll come to that. The other thing that I would like to discuss is actually concerning audit, our national audit. Now, before I come to these 2 substantive issues, allow me to just comment on one, Ubunga. We are now hearing that government is supplying minimum to ShopRite through ZNS. Information reaching us is that government is buying 10 million metric tons of minimum from South Africa. And we are hearing that this is part of what ZNS is supplying to ShopRite. So I hope that what the issue which was raised by the Honorable Leader of Opposition in the House, that this could be GMO, does not come true. Because this information cannot just come in isolation. I think there are linkages. Government must come good and tell the Zambian people whether they have entered into a contract to import 10 million metric tons of mealie meal from South Africa, which could be GMO. So that is very, very important. But speaking for the people, I think that I'll go down to Northern Province. I'll tell you that I have seen only one ShopRite in Northern Province, in Kasama. So when I think about the people of Umbala, who are about 200 kilometers away from Kasama, when I think about the people of Mpulungu, who are about 230 kilometers away from Kasama, the people of Kaputa, who are over 400 kilometers away from Kasama, those in Luwingu, those in Lunte and in Porokoso, hundreds of kilometers away from Kasama, I think that this is a very poor solution. To go and put cheap mealie meal in ShopRite, which might be GMO, I hope it is not, and expect somebody to come from Kaputa 450 kilometers to come and buy a cheap bag of mealie meal is very poor. I think that government must find a way of thinking for the poor much more than they are doing now, because these are critically poor decisions. My brother here talked about the 4 things that UPND always boast about, and recruitment of health workers and teachers was one of them. It's unfortunate that government doesn't want to disclose everywhere they are employing, because in some institutions, and I know them, they are employing it during the night, and people are taking turns to do training. One group has finished, they've been dispatched all over the country, another group is under training, another group is waiting to be trained. So even as they boast about, my brother, about teachers and health workers, we have been informed that elsewhere you are recruiting during the night. So this practice should come to an end, because all those lists, a number of leaders have them, and they'll be fired. When they are fired, people will be saying it's victimization. It is you, the government, who cause future pain for those people. So I wanted to make reference to those before I come to just these two substantive issues. The audit of our republic. My friends, the Auditor General, the one I call illegal Auditor General, submitted this audit report on time. This one came on time to the Assembly, and I suppose it also went on time to the President, because this Constitution demands that the Auditor General submits an audit report on time, and this one came on time. Then it was withdrawn. Okay? After it was withdrawn and revised, the Auditor General now submitted this one. It came late. So this one, the one which is revised, has failed to meet the constitutional timing established in this Constitution. Now, just that fact alone makes this book illegal. It came late. But you have to add the other things we say. We have been saying that the man who signed these books is actually sitting in the office illegally. We asked Her Honor the Vice President to explain. Her Honor the Vice President was all over the place. She even said that person is sitting there on account of Cap 2. You can imagine Cap 2 is just interpretations. And when you read section 27 of Cap 2, it is clear that a person cannot act in a place where they don't qualify. I'm wondering whether this is the reason the select committee at the Assembly cannot be formed up to now. Imagine the time he was appointed. It's a long time. They say the circular from the press aide or acting press aide for the president was released a long time. Up to now, there's no process in the Assembly to ratify this particular person, because the writing is on the wall. This is an illegal appointment. The same thing to do is to withdraw the appointment and find a suitably qualified Zambian, so that this Zambian can, rightfully occupy this office. Another very, very strong information reaching us is that if you remember those illegal audit reports which were contracted by the Minister of Finance, government is now failing to pay some of those people. Why? Because government is demanding that they remove some information from the audit reports. Government is uncomfortable that the issues of FISIP, particularly to do with those contracts, to do with the jangulos and so on, should not be in the audit findings. Now, you contract an illegal audit. The illegal audit gives you information. You are now failing to pay them because they put information which you don't want. This is unfortunate on the part of government. I challenge government to just go ahead and execute those contracts and let the information which the auditors have put in those illegal audit reports remain as it is, so that we can come and use it properly. That information, or whoever is going to come, should come and use it properly. We told you those were illegal audits. We told you Minister of Finance has got no mandate to hire auditors. We told you that to stop the audit. Now they have audited you. They have given you information. You are refusing the information. What type of government are you? You accept the audit reports as they are and ensure that you pay those people for the illegal services which you actually contracted. In this illegal audit report from the Auditor General, I'll just talk about one thing. Key audit matters. On page 7, the Auditor General says, in his professional opinion, he did not find any key audit matters. Now, my friends, today, as we speak, there are over 300 civil servants who are sitting at cabinet office in the holding position. They are drawing salaries every month, but they are not working. How can an Auditor General fail to find that as a key audit matter in the year that he is auditing? Okay, so I find this is the period when there are cancellations upon cancellations of fertilizer, procurement processes. The Auditor General cannot find anything and no key audit issue. This is the year when Minister of Tourism illegally cancelled hunting concessions. The process went to court. Government has lost money. The Auditor General can't find anything. This is a year when Sensele has been illegally mining at KCM. KCM belongs to government under the Minister of Mines. The Auditor General has failed to find anything. This is the year when there was a leaked audit or management letter, which is basically an audit report for Anti-Corruption Commission, which established glaring issues. The Auditor General has failed to find any one of those. This is the year when there was a strong conversation about 65 million kwacha for Faith Msonda. The Auditor General has not clarified anything about that, and he thinks that in that year there were no key audit matters. Frankly, if you call such an Auditor General incompetent, would you be far from the truth? I think, sir, you are truly incompetent. I will read your report. I know it is illegal. I will never support it, but I will read it to understand the level of your incompetence. Finally, I have no understanding why the budget is understated by 66 billion. I was looking at the budget since 2020. I'll go to 2021. 2021 was the last budget for PF. PF that year budgeted to spend 119 billion, okay? Then came UPND, who came and did the 2022 budget. They came and budgeted 172 billion, 72.9, which is basically 173 billion. And during the course of implementation, they also came with a 22 billion supplementary budget. So the whole budget for 2022 was actually 195 billion. Now, when you consider what budget they were coming from 119. So the jump is 76 billion. They are jumping 76 billion, and this 76 billion has gone in thin air in consumption because there is no infrastructure that UPND has constructed other than a tarmac which goes to community house. Now that tarmac cannot cost 76 billion. So you imagine that it is shameful for UPND to jump the budget from 119 to 195 and have no infrastructure whatsoever to show for it. So I think this is the reason why, even in this year, they are trying to hide figures, to hide the 66 billion so that they don't show that their actual budget is actually 245 billion. I challenge the Minister of Finance to state why he's going to undertake government operations in the financial markets outside of both the Ways and Means as well as the Appropriation Act. Because what we are doing here is to come up with an act which will enable him to spend, meaning that outside of this act he can't spend, but he's saying this 66 billion will only be transactions outside the report. This is why, I think that government must now begin to be forthright to the people. If you are borrowing 83 billion kwacha on the local market, just show that you are borrowing 83 billion kwacha. There's no way you can be saying the difference will pay maturities. And in the budget, you have put maturities only worth 32.9 billion, but meanwhile, it is 66 billion. Sir, stop cheating the people. This is time now to tell the people the truth so that you can restore. Well, I'll end there. Thank you so much, colleagues.
Thank you so much, Honorable, for your submission on various matters. I will now invite questions, clarifications, comments from colleagues. Any questions? Everything is okay? Well, thank you so much for coming. Hope to see you again tomorrow. Thank you.
Oh, did you tell them this is just a committee on finance? Okay, committee.